Hello and welcome to Trains in Viettic, and a completely different type of episodes today. We're going nowhere near trains, but this is a major part of my modern railway. So what are we talking about today? You might know what these are, or you might not. This is my stash of Raspberry Pi single board computers in nice cases and with a screen. So what I'll do today is introduce to you the Raspberry Pi, some of the things you can do with it, and how to set one up. So let's start the title and then we can start this video. A Raspberry Pi computer is a single board computer which run a version of a Linux operating system, and all of my Raspberry Pis are in cases of one type or another, and I'll take them out in a second, and I'll run through the features on these. I got 4 different versions here, and I don't have the newest version. So if you want to go and find some information straight off the bat, there should be a link on the screen just about here-ish right now. So Editing Richard, get that link up. So what do I have on on my desk? I've got 3 Raspberry Pi power supplies. These are standard outputs over micro B with a wall wart. I got 2 whites and a black, if I don't mean anything, for different colorations. Then we'll start off with my oldest Raspberry Pi. This is a Raspberry Pi Model B, we believe, and it's 10 years old. You'll notice that this is have lots of differences from the new versions. You'll see that you actually got a composite output. You can see that header, which I'll explain more about later on, is smaller. You can see it uses a full-size SD card, and you can see it only have 2 USB ports. This was my first Raspberry Pi I bought. It can still be upgraded and it can still work, but it's quite slow. Next we have these 2 units. They're both in cases, so these are Model 3Bs, and you can see this one I have got a fan on the case, this one haven't. So let's take this one out of the case and then we can see what we actually have. It's always worth keeping these in a case because you have exposed metal pins. So this is a Model B, a 3B, and on this we start at this end. We have 4 USB version 2s, 1 USB up to a gigabit. We then have headphones, HDMI and micro B, which is an in. Then we have a micro USB slot, micro SD slot, and that's where the operating system is stored. Then on the top we have a few interesting bits. This port here is so that you can connect a camera. This port here is so that you can attach that screen. And this port here is what make the Raspberry Pi even more special. This is a GPIO header. They are now 40 pins, the original was 20 pins. GPIO stands for General Purpose Input Output Port, which allow these pins to do a lot of things. So let's go onto the desk and have a further look. I've now came in closer to the board so that we can have a look, and I wanted to go into a bit more detail on the GPIO pins. The GPIO pins allow you to use things which are called hats, and this is two examples of hats I have. This blue one drives a matrix display, and this one is a little display you can put on your Raspberry Pi. So on the back here you'll see we've got female header pins. They're female because they have holes going in, and these are males because they have holes coming out. To attach this, that's now attached, and it used these pins for power, communication and everything else. You then just need to find the correct program to run this. So I'll take this off and put it to one side, and I'll actually bring out the next version of the Raspberry Pi, the one that we'll be using. This is a model 3B Plus. And there's a few changes on board, but the biggest one is these 4 pins here. This allows the device to be powered over Ethernet rather than plugging it in. You can see both have the Broadcom chips, which I believe are the processor chips, but I could be wrong. We then have a chip underneath there. We have those chips there. And again we have a GPIO pins, we have a camera port, and we have a display port. The reason I'm using this one rather than that one is because I'm going to be using this with a built-in display. So as I'm going to be using it on a different one, I want to use it on the same model. So my plan is today show you the basic setup of how to get these up and running. I said about cases earlier on, so this is an official Raspberry Pi case. You put that in there, you put that on there, you put that on there, you put that on there, and then you end up with that on top. So that's now ready to go back into my storage. Raspberry Pi 4s actually have 2 HDMI ports, but they're the micro HDMI ports, and you're also getting 2 USB 3 ports which are faster speed. Let me do some dodgy camera work. So this is a Raspberry Pi 3 Plus on a screen. So if I turn over and turn it around, you can see I have a Raspberry Pi in here, and you'll see that this lead here is actually leading to the screen. You can see that I actually broke that port there, and you can see I have got heat sinks on this to try to keep the system running cold. So this will eventually be mounted on the layout, but we're going to be working on this one because I can easily transfer the memory card from this one to that one. So let's go onto the computer and see how we get them. Actually, I got one last thing to show you. You can get really small Raspberry Pis. This is a Raspberry Pi W. Now, Raspberry Pi 0W. For W stand for with Wi-Fi. Again, you got the GPIO there, but it's a header, which means it haven't got the pins in. And you'll notice that it have a lot less ports. One of the clever things you can do with Raspberry Pis is that you can run them with no monitor attached. This is called headless operation, and eventually I'll have some of those in operation on the layout. But today I'm going to take this memory card and get it ready for this, and then we'll catch her for initial boot up and what I do to get everything ready. I've now gone to the computer, and what I'm going to do is to search for Raspberry Pi. This should bring us with an option of raspberrypi.org. For more information on everything I'm doing, this is the best source. And you can see all kinds of projects that for Raspberry Pi being used in. So we then go on to, I can't remember, software, and then we click on this, install Raspberry Pi OS using Raspberry Pi Imager, download for Windows. If you're on a Mac, you can do it for Mac, or if you're on Ubuntu, you can do it on Ubuntu. Once it's finished, you can open it up. You're most probably going to get the warning. Then you do install. And then finish and run. So this should now bring up the thing. So you choose your OS, which is Raspbian, which is for OS specifically designed for Raspberry Pi, but you have many other options here, so click on that. Then you put in a memory card into a SD card reader, so I'll quickly do that. And that should start doing stuff. So we choose storage, and it bring up her error. So I'll just check that the memory card is there, but it haven't loaded for some reason. So I'll just pause this and we'll come back. So I'm back. So hopefully when we choose storage, yes, we got disk J, and then we say right. You get a generic warning to say it will delete, and you press yes, and then it starts setting it up. This will take a little while, so I'll come back to you once it's done. We're now in for the last little bit, and that's now written it though and does a verification. Then when this is finished, you'll come up with an error, because for OS we have just put on the memory card. A PC, a Windows PC can't actually see. So it will come up with an error message when it's finished. Don't worry about this error message, it should just work. So as you can see, it's quite a quick process. You can do this on Windows, Mac, Umberto, which is another version of Linux, and you can also do it on Raspberry Pi, so you can self-create itself. So we got 40 something percent left to go, and we're getting there. And then when we're done, it will then come up with an error I have warned you about. So we'll carry on. One thing that a lot of people don't realise is for Windows and Mac, you have different formats on hard drives, so you can't necessarily move a file from one computer to the other. If you put it on a SD card, you need it formatted in the correct format. And this is a problem we hit in a few moments with this. So we got finalised and then have been written, and you can remove it. So we can now just click continue and close this. So let's go over to the Raspberry Pi. So we currently aren't seeing anything on screen, we're just seeing the screen capture software. I have set up my second workstation, and I've got my memory stick that I showed you how to make in the last clip. So I have attached a keyboard, mouse, monitor, and now I'm connecting the power, and the system should be booting. So in a moment you can now see the screen. You get this message, resizing format, and then it will do a reboot. And you can see the screen have came back. And we got the Raspberry Pi logo. This is for initial boot. It takes a few bits, you get bits of commands. So there's a lot of blank screen, but don't worry about it. So there will be blocks blocking off parts of the screen that's got personal information to enter. But as you can see, we have now got the OS up. So we got a few things to do, so we click next. Country UK, Britain, use English language, then we do next. If you can plug in a wire to your Pi, it will make your life easier. A wired network cable, I mean. So the first thing you need to do is put in a password. This will now be blurred and muted, so you can't hear what I put in. That's definitely not the password, and I'll change it later on. So on here I have a black screen around the edge. If I click this box, that will resolve it on the next boot. Now it's searching for network. So this is now blanked out for you. I'm choosing for network. Then I'm putting in the password. And then you go and get connecting. This take a few seconds, and it asks if you want to do software updates. This is very important, so you go and press next, and this will take a while. So with updates happening, there's a few bits I will tell you, then we'll finish off for the episode. This is for GUI, graphical user interface, and there's also a terminal, which is that there. I don't think I'll need to show you how to use the terminal, but it's something that have a chance of being used. If you want to use the terminal, one command you need to remember is sudo, which stands for super user do. Before you tell it to do anything, you need to put in sudo command. So let's finish off this video as it gets in rather long. So thank you everybody for watching. For more information on everything I have done, please visit the raspberrypi.org website. Website link should be in the description. Next week we will start actually getting it ready to work with a Sprog. So thank you everybody for your time, and I'll see you all next time. Thank you very much, Richard.